The keys to the notary's office were still warm in my bag as I approached the house. 3 million rubles in cash. An apartment in the city center, a dacha near Podolska, and Aunt Claudia's inheritance turned out to be a real treasure. For 20 years, Andre and I had built our restaurant business literally from scratch, and now, finally, we could breathe freely. I could already imagine my husband's joy, how Dennis's eyes would light up. Our son had long dreamed of his own car, and now we could buy not just a car, but something worthwhile. Maybe even open a fourth restaurant in the location we'd been eyeing for so long. As I climbed the steps to the porch, I heard voices coming from Andre's office. The door was ajar, and I recognized my son's laughter, so rare in recent months. Dennis had clearly been nervous about his exams, but now he sounded relaxed, even cheerful. Just try to let it slip. My plan is perfect, Andre said, and something in his tone made me stop. The ground dropped out from under my feet. That tone was cold, calculating. I'd heard it only a few times in 20 years of marriage, when Andre fired managers for theft, when he dealt with unscrupulous suppliers, but never had he spoken to his son like that. Dad, what if Mom finds out? Dennis's voice trembled. Marina won't find out. She's too trusting, always has been. I pressed myself against the wall. My heart was beating so loudly it seemed like it could be heard throughout the entire neighborhood. What were they talking about? What was the plan? But if she does figure it out, your mother will be in no condition to do anything in a month. Believe me, I've calculated everything. It worked 20 years ago. It will work now. 20 years ago, when I was pregnant with Dennis, when that terrible accident happened with my first husband, Sergey. When Andre appeared in my life as a savior, a shoulder to cry on, helping me recover from my grief. So, Grandpa Serioza too, Dennis began. Enough questions. Do what I say, and in 6 months our life will be completely different, and your mother will get what she deserves. I slowly stepped back, trying not to breathe. I needed to get out of here, I needed to think. My hands were shaking as I searched for the car keys. I couldn't start the engine the first time. My fingers were shaking too much. Andre had killed Sergey, the man I loved, the father of my unborn child, and now he was planning something with me. And Dennis, my boy, knew about it. I drove to the restaurant on autopilot. The goldfish, our first creation, was running like clockwork. Waiters scurried between the tables. Something sizzled in the pans in the kitchen. An ordinary life that no longer seemed real. In my office on the second floor, I locked the door and took out my phone. My fingers dialed Katerina, my best friend and business partner. Katya, we need to meet. Urgently. Marishka, what happened? You're talking strangely. Not on the phone. In an hour, at that cafe by the metro. Katerina was already waiting when I arrived. Tall, elegant, always impeccably dressed, the complete opposite of me. In 15 years of friendship, she has never let me down. If there's anyone I could trust with such a secret, it's her. Katyusha, I think Andre is planning something against me. Serious. She listened attentively to the whole story, without interrupting. Only the wrinkle between her brows deepened. Marin, are you sure you understood correctly? Maybe they were talking about some kind of surprise? A birthday. Katya, my birthday is in December, and now it's June. Then we need to act, and quickly. She leaned closer. Listen, do you remember how a year ago Andre asked you to sign some documents? He said it was for tax optimization. I remember a stack of papers, fine print, an explanation of schemes and legal ways to save on taxes. I trusted my husband, I signed without reading. But what if, Katya, You think he could have transferred my share in the restaurants to himself? We'll check. I have a friend in the registration chamber. By evening, my terrible suspicions were confirmed. My share in 3 restaurants, the result of 20 years of labor, no longer legally belonged to me. Everything was re-registered in Andre's name. Moreover, loans were issued in my name that I had no idea about. Debts totaling more than 5 million rubles. Marina, you're bankrupt, said Katerina, looking through the documents. If the creditors sue tomorrow, then this is what he's planning, I whispered. Bankruptcy, loss of property. What about Aunt Claudia's inheritance? Andre doesn't know about it. Not yet. I wanted to surprise him. Then you have time, but it's short. We sat in the cafe until closing time, planning every move. Katerina turned out to be a surprisingly good strategist. We had to act quietly, quickly, and ruthlessly. Andre had been playing by the rules for 20 years. That meant I had the right to defend myself by any means necessary. The first thing I did was transfer the inheritance to a bank account opened under my maiden name at a different bank. Then I contacted a private detective. Katya gave me the contact information for a reliable person. If Andre killed Sergei, there had to be evidence. Even after 20 years, something could still be there. At home, I played the role of the unsuspecting wife. I cooked dinner, asked how he was doing, kissed him good night. Andre was ordinary, attentive, caring. Sometimes I caught his gaze and saw something new in him. Or maybe it was always there, I just didn't notice. Dennis avoided me. The son I'd given birth to, carried to term, raised, and loved more than life itself could no longer look me in the eye. This was more painful than anything else. The detective worked quickly. A week later, a folder with photographs, documents, and witness statements sat on my desk. The accident that killed Sergei was staged. His car's brakes were damaged, and the day before the tragedy, he was seen talking to Andre outside a car repair shop. At the time, Andre owned a small auto repair business. He never told me this fact about his biography. But the most shocking thing was something else. At the time of his death, Sergei had debts, serious debts to some very unpleasant people. Debts that, as his wife, I would be responsible for paying after his death. But Andre took on these obligations, helped me, and then suddenly became rich and opened his first restaurant. It all came together to form a disgusting picture. Andre killed Sergei not because of me, not out of love. He killed him for the money that was supposed to go to the crime bosses. I just turned out to be a nice bonus on top of the main prize. Marina, this is enough to put him in prison for life, Katerina said, studying the case materials. But there was one problem. What is it? Are you ready to lose Dennis? Quote. Because when all this comes out, he'll find out his father is a killer. And he'll also find out that his father's mother turned him in to the police. I remained silent. Dennis was with me, not with me anymore. I understood that. But there remained a ghost of a chance that he was being coerced, that he was a victim, not an accomplice. Could the boy I was raising really be capable of such a thing? The answer came 2 days later. I returned home earlier than usual and found Dennis in my bedroom. He was standing by the open safe, sorting through documents. What are you doing? He turned around, and I saw in his eyes not shame, not fear, but cold irritation. Dad told me to find the documents for Aunt Claudia's apartment. He said you received an inheritance but are hiding it. Dennis, you know, Mom, you're wrong to think we're such fools. Dad has known for a long time about your visits to the detective and about the account at the other bank, too. The world has stopped. If Andre is aware of my actions, then it's Katerina, I realized. She tells him everything. Katerina Sergeyevna has been working with Dad for 5 years. Ever since she realized the business was bringing in good money, Dennis spoke calmly, as if discussing the weather. And you've always been superfluous in this matter, Mom. Too honest, too principled. Dennis, he's a murderer. Your father killed a man. Grandpa Serioza was a loser and a debtor. Dad did what needed to be done, and then gave us a good life. Isn't that more important than any moral principles? I looked at this young man, handsome, smart, educated, and didn't recognize my child. When he became like this or was always like this, I just didn't see. Mom, you have two options. Either you voluntarily transfer your inheritance rights to Dad and move somewhere far away, or tomorrow morning the creditors file for bankruptcy, and you lose everything, including the roof over your head. And you'll also get a criminal case for fraud. Fraud? You signed documents about your income to get loans. And the income you reported was 3 times higher than your actual income. That's a charge, Mom, from 2 to 6 years. I realized I'd lost. Even the evidence of Sergei's murder wouldn't help against me. There would be Katerina's testimony, fake documents, witnesses who could be bought. Andrei really did figure it all out. Okay, I said. Okay, Dennis, you win. He smiled, and in that smile I saw Andrei. The same predatory notes, the same cold satisfaction. I knew you'd understand. You're an intelligent woman. That evening, I was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea and looking at the inheritance documents. Andrei was at work. Dennis had gone to see friends. The house seemed strange, hostile. The phone rang at exactly 9 o'clock. Marina, this is Natalia Sergeyevna, detective. I have news for you. What news? I don't care anymore. I care. I have found the witness to the accident who disappeared immediately after the incident. He's alive, and he's ready to testify. What's more, he has photos from the scene. Back then, that was rare, but he worked as a photojournalist. And what's next? And then I have connections in the prosecutor's office. If we file a complaint tomorrow morning with this evidence, Andrei won't have time to do anything. He'll be arrested before the creditors file for your bankruptcy. I remained silent. Last chance. Last chance to avenge myself and Sergei. But there are conditions, the detective continued. We need to act now. Tomorrow could be too late. And Dennis? Dennis wasn't a minor when he conspired. He faces prison time as an accomplice to fraud, but if he testifies against his father, he could get a suspended sentence. I put the cup on the table. My hands no longer shook. The decision had come naturally, clear and final. Natalia Sergeyevna, get the documents ready. We meet tomorrow at 8 a.m. outside the prosecutor's office. That morning, as I dressed in a formal black suit, I wasn't thinking about the place. I was thinking about justice, about how Sergei deserved the truth, how I deserved a life without lies, and even about how Dennis might deserve a chance to understand the difference between right and wrong. The prosecutor listened to me attentively. The documents made an impression. By midday, Andrei was arrested right there in the office, and Katerina in our restaurant. Dennis came to see me that evening. For the first time in months, his eyes didn't reflect anger, but confusion. Mom, what happens now? Now you'll live with the truth, I replied. And this one, you know, isn't so bad. Thank you for listening to the end. If you found this story interesting, subscribe to the channel and like it so you don't miss new videos.